Hope you're doing well today. I wanted to share some awesome beats right now. Yes, before I start, right, I'm gonna begin. Chime in, beautiful people, chime in. Thank you for being a part of my broadcast. I will begin shortly, but I want you to chime in. Beautiful people, beautiful brothers and sisters, chime in, chime in. Hear me now, hear me now. All right, so I will begin with Psalm 23:4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Yes. And let's go to a cross reference. When you go out to war against your enemies and see horses, chariots, and an army larger than yours, do not be afraid of them. For Yahuwah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, is with you. That is found in Deuteronomy 21. When you go out to war against your enemies and see horses, chariots, and an army larger than yours, do not be afraid of them. For Elohim is with you. For your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, is with you. So that's confirmation that wherever we go, no matter how big the audience looks, no matter how big the enemy is, our Elohim is with us. So I want to thank him in this glorious, beautiful day. Now, I wanted to speak on actually various topics, so many topics to speak of, and one being the one with, let me see, how do I begin? It's kind of broad, it's so expansive. I want to begin with those that are allowing themselves to be dominated, to be controlled under the spirit of sorcery, whether it's religion, whether it's addictions in alcohol, in drugs, in sex, so many addictions that we can partake in. But it is the will of our Elohim that we may be free. And that is the topic of this message, is that we may remain awoke. In this hour, this is the great awakening that we are living in. Something like never before, the things that we're seeing. Never before in history are we seeing specific events, specific prophetic events unravel right before our eyes. And I want to say that many of us are still being rocked to sleep with barbiturates, with partying, with music. You know, music has a specific frequency and vibration that can damn our soul, and music can actually rewire and restructure the DNA of our godly DNA. So we have to be careful even in that. Hallelujah. And have no association and have no partaking in the works of darkness that are so many, that are so expansive, right? It's so many things that we can choose from that the Most High has called forbidden. But many of us are continuing to be rocked to sleep. And that's how Hashatan wants us, is in that sleep state where we're not vigilant, where we're not watching. Many of us are partaking, especially in alcohol. I have seen alcohol in my family for centuries and decades, generations. Now, brothers and sisters, it's not time to be falling asleep and partaking from the works of darkness. We shouldn't partake in the works of darkness because the Most High has spoken to us. He has transformed us, our mental state, our mentality. And I want to say tonight that you need to free yourself, that you need to emancipate yourself from every dark sin in your life and be set free. Many people hate me. Many people dislike me because I tell them the truth regarding these addictions. Anything that controls you, anything that overpowers you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is something forbidden. Something that you should not even entangle yourself with. The yoke of bondage. That's what it is, the yoke of bondage. So emancipate yourself. Emancipate. Let's look up the term emancipate. Give me 1 second, brothers and sisters. All right. So emancipate yourself. When I say emancipate yourself, it means disconnect yourself. Disconnect yourself. What else? Free your mind from restraint, control, or the power of another influence, another force, another principality. Especially to free yourself from bondage. Anything that holds you down. Anything that does not allow you to be the best version of yourself. Disconnect yourself. Do not have anything to do with these wicked concoctions. Many of us are going to hospitals, taking RX prescription drugs, which is another form of being under the power and influence of pharmakeia, which is witchcraft. Did you not know that alcohol is witchcraft? Did you not know that RX prescription drugs is a form of witchcraft? Street drugs, is another form of witchcraft. You need to free yourself, free your mind, be able to think clear, not allowing, see, many of us are allowing these dark areas in our life to live and to thrive and to take a foothold. And that's why we struggle. And that's why everything is going wrong and not right. That's why we can't think. That's why we can't have a sound mind, a disciplined mind, a strong mind. So free yourself from any influence, whether it's a male, whether it's a female. Free yourself from any dark area of your life. Now, this is interesting. Now let me go back to emancipate. Set free, especially from legal, social, or political restrictions. Did you not know that there are various people that we have known and heard of that have emancipated their mind? They have made a declaration, a proclamation to emancipate themselves, to disconnect themselves from a specific system, a specific network. They have done that. Now let's go to Taharar in Arabic. Means cleanliness from impurities, both physically and morally. Technically means lifting the state of hadath, a bodily ritual impurity, and removing defilement that prelude valid prayer. Give me 1 second. Physically, chapter 8. Emancipate. To make a declaration. To make an oath. You see, now this is the thing. I know you've heard of the Emancipation Proclamation before. Now, this Emancipation Proclamation that you have heard before, they made an Emancipation Proclamation, declaration, pretty much. But the contract has been void. It's void. It's presumed ineffective if it's not brought about, if what they have promised. And in that case, it was the release of slaves. Give me a second, brothers. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, so there's so many ways to enslave our people. One of the main ways to enslave a generation, I'm gonna tell you right now, is through food, through alcohol, through the media. It's a very great escape for many people. They try to escape mentally, physically, and emotionally into these concoctions, not knowing that the end is death. So I wanted to talk briefly as well regarding the slave trade. You see, I'm gonna tell you how people been rocked back to sleep. And the enemy, Hashatan, has used alcohol for many centuries, for many decades, so that our people may build his empire in his kingdom. Meanwhile, waiting for our people to be destroyed completely. All right. So they have used many things to trap our people. Even guns, believe it or not. It's legal. Having and owning a gun in the states, in various states, is legal, right? So they pretty much set you up for failure so that you can kill someone. And 9 out of 10 times, you go to prison for something like that. Whether it's self-defense or not, you have to have a strong case. right? And I would say you have to have a lot of money, and a lot of people like to say that color don't matter, but believe it or not, color matters. Color matters. I'll tell you why color matters. I remember this man I watched on YouTube, and he said that there were doctors in the hospital where he was in the hospital, and he overheard these doctors laughing, saying that they reserve the biggest needles for black children. And that's something that breaks my heart, because why would you get off on someone else's pain and suffering? Because these poor little children, I've seen them get needles in their arms, and the agony, and they cry, and it's so sad, and it's so heartbreaking, right? Just pump them up with these poisons. But you know what? Those that are awoke can see the enemy when he comes in like a flood. And you know what? The Creator has given us the power to tread upon serpents and to command anything to be, and it shall be. Because we have the power. You know, we are creators. We are creators. And what we speak, it shall be done. Right? So, let's see here. The transatlantic slave trade that persisted for 4 centuries, and the violations of human rights in the history of humanity. The transatlantic slave trade was unique within the entire history of slavery due to its duration, 400 years. Its scale, approximately 17 million people, excluding those who died during transport, and the legitimization accorded to it included under laws of the time. It's amazing how this was legal in that time. And there's specific states in the, I don't want to get banned here, in Babylon, that are under judgment right now. And I'm not going to name them because, like I said, I don't want to get shadow banned for speaking up, sharing some truth. But if you researched where exactly on this map, you research this map, and you can go on Google, right? Where the last solar eclipse took place, the last solar eclipse that we saw. I was actually outside when it happened. You see on the map where it went through, okay? And where it went to, that's the specific eclipse, it pretty much it went through specific states. And now I'm gonna tell you right now, because I'm gonna share this information. There were 13 states that enslaved our people, and I'm gonna go there. See, they were rocking our people to sleep for centuries. 13 states, slave states. And that's where you're gonna get your information. 13 states that had their hand in the slave trade. Let's go here, because I'll look this up. Okay? And this is in the states, okay? I'm no longer part of that kingdom. Most High has told us to come out from amongst them and be separate, unless we want to partake in her plagues and receive her plagues and her judgment. So there were 13 states and the slave trade. Check this out. That's why I love technology, because there's certain things I know for a fact that are here, that are correct and accurate after discerning it, and then other times there are things that I can't find that they're hiding, and it's obvious. Who controls the media? We all know who controls the media. And sure enough, ain't just America. All right. Sorry about that. People are flying because it's so windy here. All right, so 13 states in the slave trade. All right. Now, wisdom is power. I always say that. Need to gain wisdom and understanding. Most High is judging right now. The judgment is falling. Just like in the days of Lot, where Lot, and was it Lot? Let me see. Hold on a second, because I was reading this the other day. Okay, Sodom and Gomorrah was gonna be destroyed, right? And was it Lot or Abraham? I think it was Lot. Yeah, sorry about that. My mind is somewhere else. Okay, so he says he says to the Most High, to the Elohim, will you destroy the righteous with the unrighteous? And he says he will not destroy the righteous with the unrighteous. If he find 50 people that are righteous, he won't destroy it. And there you see the mercy of Elohim. He will not destroy it. But the Creator could not find not even 50 people that were righteous in Sodom and Gomorrah. And so it is today in Babylon. He still can't find many that are righteous. And right now in this Exodus, in this Babylonian Exodus, where Yahuwah is migrating his people, he is revealing himself to people in dreams, in visions, right? He said, in the last days, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your daughters and your sons, they shall prophesy. They will dream dreams and have visions, right? So the Creator is migrating, giving you the spirit of migration to Exodus out before this wicked nation is destroyed. So we're about to go to the 13 states, okay? Now check this out. Chime in, people. Chime in. Feel free to speak. You have the floor. Ask any questions. Okay. So let's go here. Now, so you have to know who your enemy is. You have to identify. Okay? I know many of us have been born in a slave womb, by a slave woman, by a slave. We have been birthed from slavery. You know, there was a time where slaves couldn't read, they couldn't talk. It was illegal to open a book. It was illegal to know the truth. And that is why you can be arrested. You could be arrested just because you opened a book as a slave. Now here, slave state. Now this is facts. You can find this on Wikipedia. Slave state. In the United States before 1865, a slave state was a state in which slavery and the slave trade were legal. Now this was legal to enslave someone. And let me tell you something. Just because it's not the same way like it was before, where people were actually put on slave ships and things like that, people are still going to the plantation. They're still working a 9-to-5 job, or they're working night shifts. They're still a slave. And then you know what happens? They have to run to the booze. They have to run to the poison. And where do they go? They go to the slave master to get their concoction, right? To rock them back to sleep. And that shouldn't be. Okay, so now here. Now, for those that are living in Babylon, here you go. In the United States before 1865, a slave state was a state in which slavery and the slave trade were completely legal, while a free state was one in which they were not. Okay, so let's go. I want to show you I want to read the 17 states. Was it 13? I think it was 13. Give me 1 second, because I want to look at images here. Slave 13 states. Now this is crazy, because I've been to some of these places, especially North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, slave states. This is where they allowed slaves to be mistreated in these specific colonies, right? Oh, connection private. I'm not sure why that's giving me that. U.S. slavery time now. Which, let me see. All right, I'm gonna name these states. Let me see if I can pull up this, make this big here. All right, listen here, y'all. Now Florida had their hand on it. You see their hand in the slave trade. We have Mississippi. We had Mississippi. We had Alabama. We had Georgia. That's where they lynched our people. Louisiana. We had Texas. Look at that. Slave states. Missouri. We had Arkansas. We had New York. Virginia. Did I say Kentucky? South Carolina. North Carolina. We had Delaware, Maryland, Louisiana, Florida. Okay. Now the free states we had here: Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I don't know why that's blue, because New York had their hand on it. Wicked. Slave states, free territories. All right, you see, so there were many states that enslaved our people. And let's look here. The last solar eclipse, because I correlate things. I'm a researcher, if you don't already know me by now. Now let's go to the last solar eclipse. Now a lot of people just thought it was just a regular solar eclipse. But it was a warning message of the judgment of specific states coming. All right. Let me look here. Look at the map. All right, the pathway. Pretty much that's what it was. It was the pathway of the solar eclipse. Correlate some things here for you. That's 2017 though. That's not what I'm looking for. Trying to see what. Somebody help me out. Was it, what year was this that this happened? Was it 2017? I don't remember. Let's see here. Sometimes, see, this is my new computer, so it's hard to pull up what I'm looking for, because I want to see the path. Here's the pathway. Path of totality. That's not what I'm looking for. Anyways, well, what I wanted to let you know is that these specific states that I called out so far, under Yah's judgment, and that's how serious it is. Anyone that enslaved our people. So what happens after 400 years? Let's look. Let's read the Emancipation Proclamation. What that said. And like I said, it was not even effective if it didn't continue, because our people are still enslaved to the system, to the mark of the beast system. So what was the proclamation for if our people are still in bondage? See what I'm saying? Now, this proclamation was supposed to abolish slavery, but it's ineffective till this day. Let's see here. Oh, sorry, that's something else. I don't want to read it to you, actually. What? So pretty much whoever wrote this proclamation couldn't enforce it at the end of the day, because if they died, how could they prove that it was going to be carried out, right? So the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, in the second year of the Civil War, and a preliminary proclamation issued 4 months earlier. Lincoln stated that on the first of the year, all persons held as slaves in states and parts of states. Now, so see, we've been living and sleeping with the enemy. Specifically told you here, states, Babylon, and parts of states, if any, in which the people thereof respectively shall then be in rebellion against the United States, would be free. The Emancipation Proclamation put this declaration into effect. It named the states or parts of states currently in the Confederacy and promised that the executive branch and the military would maintain the slaves' freedom. Lincoln was at first unsure about the extent of this executive power and whether he had the authority under the Constitution to free the slaves. Eventually, he saw this action as a military necessity that fell under his constitutional powers as commander-in-chief. See, Lincoln also weighed the effect that the proclamation would have on the Union war effort in a contest that was still more than 2 years from being concluded. His concerns included the loyalty of border states such as Maryland and Kentucky, which, even though they held slaves, had not joined the Confederacy. With the Emancipation Proclamation forced those states into the arms of Confederacy, increasing its manpower and supplies. Wow, that's amazing. You see that? But that's exactly what happened. They fell into the hands of the enemy. So the slaves, everything was repackaged, okay? So they offered him freedom, but they offered him alcohol, basically. Because we can go into that as well. That's another story. They offered them booze. All right, so I'm coming out of that because we're supposed to go into the slave trade of our people. And we already know what they did to the Native Americans. These devils. All right, so many of us, like I said, we were born into Babylon, the system, slavery. And a lot of us still want to stay there. We still have reasons why we can't come out from her. There's no excuse for that. Because Adam came out of her. Scripture says to. Now here, okay, let's go. And no, not every place is like Babylon, the great demon, the great whore. because where I am, no. They actually love their children where I am. They actually protect children's rights where I am. No pork in your products. What else can I say? Alcohol is illegal to just drink unless you're in a tourist section and you buy it from someone. But in other words, it's not legal. You don't see drunks walking around drunk like you see in the States. You're free to pray in public if you desire. You do things different here. So no, everywhere is not like Babylon. The legacy of the transatlantic slave trade is the subject of much debate. Let's go. So yeah, so they were pretty much pimping our people. That's sad. They would turn them into literal drunks and damn their soul so that they could be a slave forever. So they could be a patient forever. Because what happens when you drink alcohol and you become an alcoholic? Your organs begin to fail. So that's money for the hospitals. That's money for the system, the beast system, where you're going to go to jail. And that's money. Right? So they still have slaves. Slavery has not been abolished. It's still here. There's trafficking of children. And that's another can of worms that's going to be opened very soon. The creator is about to expose many people right now as I speak. All right, so let's read. This is sick what they have done to our people. So through Puerto Rico, the imports of alcohol, Virgin Islands, cultured yeast and fermentation and distillation, rum, straight rum. Yes, growing up, I knew a lot of people that drink strong rum. The paradox of temperance, blacks and the alcohol question in 19th century America. So yeah, all this took place in America, and that's why they still want to own us. Yes, they still want to continue to make us slaves. They don't want you to go free. Now that's a pharaoh. And the Most High is going to set his people free, regardless. African slaves were of immense political and symbolic significance in American culture. Not only was slavery the most inflammatory and long-standing political controversy of the century, but the strikingly different physical appearance and cultural background of Africans gave rise to the expression of a variety of cultural fears and hidden fantasies. Now that's the essay. Give me a second. But yeah, that's right too. Alcohol under the context of the Atlantic slave trade. Man, connection is private. It has some information that consumption and consumers. Let's see, alcohol and slavery. Alcohol was used in the enslavement of Africans and was used during slavery as a way to subdue and control African Americans. That's what they call y'all, but you know you are the chosen people of Yahuwah, of our Elohim. As African Americans migrated to the north from the south, faced with the conditions of urban living, the drinking patterns started to shift. That is so sad. Until this day, I see this. I see a lot of our people under the spirit of witchcraft. They go to the same people that enslaved them. Now, yep. Another person I was reading about was Frederick Douglass on how slave owners used food as a weapon of control. Right. He was born in a plantation in eastern Maryland. You know, he was a slave. So at 20, he ran away to New York and started his new life as an slavery orator and activist. Let's see. Our food was coarse cornmeal boiled. This was called mush. It was put into a large wooden tray or trough and set down upon the ground. The children were then called like so many pigs, and like so many pigs, they would come and devour the mush. Some with oyster shells, others with pieces of shingle, some with naked hands, and none with spoons. He that ate fast got most. He that was strongest secured the best place, and few left the trail satisfied. But if deprivation was one form of control, a far more insidious and malicious one was the annual Christmas holidays, where gluttony and binge drinking was almost mandatory. During those 6 days, the enslaved could do what they chose, and while a few spent with distant family or hunting or working on their homes, most were happy to engage in playing sports, fiddling, dancing, and drinking whiskey. And this later mode of spending the time was by far the most agreeable to the feeling of our masters. It was deemed a disgrace not to get drunk at Christmas. Oh, I remember that, being drunk on Christmas. You had to drink. It was pretty much like mandatory. And if you don't, something's wrong with you. To encourage whiskey vendors, the masters took bets to see who could drink the most whiskey, thus getting whole multitudes to drink to excess. Wow, gluttony. The nefarious aim of these rebels was to equate dissipation with liberty. At the end of the holidays, sickened by the excessive alcohol, the hung-over men felt that we had almost as well be slaves to man as to rum. And so Douglas wrote, "We staggered up from the filth of our wallowing, took a long breath, and marched to the field, feeling upon the whole rather glad to go from what our master had deceived us into a belief was freedom, back to the arms of slavery. I told you, you're not free if you're still entangled with the yoke of bondage, still partaking in these wicked festivities and being drunk in excess." Douglas sounds even angrier at these obligatory orgies. He calls them part and parcel of the gross fraud, wrong, and inhumanity of slavery than at other, more direct forms of cruelty. So this man saw what was going on, another form of slavery through alcohol, right? And he, in turn, he wasn't able to read. It was against the law pretty much for slaves to read, to educate themselves, and to know the truth, right? So from what I read, a lady started teaching him how to read, and her husband, which is a European pretty much slave owner, reprimanded her and told her not to teach him, so she stopped, right? But he continued, and I believe he became a orator or a pastor, and he started teaching the slaves how to read, right? And that's a beautiful thing. And it's funny because he's supposed to be born 4 days after my birthday, right? And I have that same passion and that drive to assist humanity in their evolution and evolving in life. And especially as a liberator that I am, as he is, my sole duty is to set the captives free. Yes, my sole duty is to set the captives free, and that is why I share this information, is so that you may be free and emancipate yourself, and make that declaration and make that oath to yourself, to your spirit, that you will emancipate yourself from any wicked behavior, from any addiction, any alcohol addiction, any woman addiction, any porn, anything that keeps your mind captive in bondage. So this is what this man has done, is emancipate himself, and therefore he ran away towards freedom. And the the greatest battle is your mind. You can be physically free, a walking man, but your mind be spiritually bound in bondage. So that's why we need to emancipate ourselves and disconnect ourselves from anything that will damage our mind. All right. So there was something else that I so pretty much these people laugh at those that are toxic, those that partake in these celebrations and act crazy, because alcoholic is a toxic poison that damages your whole immune system, from the way you think, from the way you perceive things. And when you go down this dark path, you're not wise. If you continue down this dark path, you will lose your essence. You will lose your identity. You will lose your family. You will lose everything that you once had, because this is a big demon. This is a big demon that steps in and takes over, pretty much a possession. And that's why they call it spirits. We should not partake in this dark alley. We should not partake in this dark poisonous concoction. Even though it's there, we shouldn't partake. Right? So I'm about to close out. About to close out. So that's the message, as a liberator, the greatest satisfaction is that our people, that we may be able to see our people be free, that we may be able to see our people cross over into the ways of the Creator, into His Spirit, that they may lead the way so others may lead the way after, right? And that's what we do as liberators. We prepare the way for others to walk through. And it's not that we haven't gone through anything. It's not that we think we're better than anyone. It's that we know how it is. We know how the path is. It's crooked. It's cold. It's dark. We know how it is to be enslaved, to be bound in bondage and not being able to go free. And that is why we speak how we do. That is why we think like we do. And our job as orators and speakers is that our people may be free from these contaminants, these pollutions, these toxic chemicals that they don't even research. They don't even research to know what's in specific chemicals. And see, the government and the system is there to use specific words that you don't even understand. As we know, the English language is witchcraft, pretty much. The English language is not our official language. It was given to us by the slave masters, just like our names, our last names have been given to us from the slave masters. And that is why when we go, we're born into this matrix. We're born into this slavery. They give us our parents sign us off pretty much to the state by way of a birth certificate, and they sign us off to the government, right? So now we're property of the government. Many people don't understand that. Many people don't know that the government, through you signing the birth certificate, they own you as property. So at any time, if they want you back, they can have you back. But the Most High will protect His people. That's all I'm going to say, is that you continue to pray, you continue to believe Him. He will protect His people within His borders, within His constraints. And that is why we have to be obedient to His word. We have to walk in the Spirit. We have to not be afraid of what they say or any type of plots and snares against us. We shouldn't be afraid of that. Even if we have a bounty on our head, be not afraid. We know Harriet Tubman was one that had a bounty on her head, but she continued to endure. She continued to walk towards the light. She continued to walk through the darkness and running through woods, running and hearing voices after her and animals, dogs barking. But she continued the path. She did not look back. And that is why she was known as a liberator. And she was called a woman called Moses. They called her that because she was here to set the captives free. And guess what? She found her way. She found her path. And many followed. But many that were slaves didn't even know that they were slaves, and they remained enslaved. So that's my job, is to be that light, to be that lamp, to be that guide, to be that sister, so that my people may be free. Shalom and peace. Have a blessed night, my beautiful people.